Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living, the television version. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. Delighted that you've tuned in, joined with me today here on Strategies for Living. Well, we're all about helping us live healthier, happier, and more peaceful lives in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits, in our relationships here in the 21st century. And we do that by engaging in important conversations with folks we like to call them life strategists. Gary Tiemann, you're one of my favorites. Thank you for being here. Do you know you're on we're launching Strategies for Living this month is launching its 25th year on the air.
Oh my goodness.
Not here at Bipsy,
Yeah.
but we started on News Radio 710 Keel.
We'll be careful
Back
about
in
what
1992. Yeah, well, that's it's miraculous. How's that for a segue?
There you go.
I am so proud of Gary Tiemann. He is a licensed clinical social worker right here in the Shreveport-Bossier area. We've known each other 100 years, and I am so proud of him because I've known about this for about 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah.
This has been bubbling for
even
a
longer than that,
long while. And I'm so proud to say that my friend has published his first book. It's called Miraculous Psychotherapy, Achieve Your Ultimate Happiness with A Course in Miracles. Gary Tiemann, thank you for coming and being a part of Strategies for Living.
Thank you so much. I'm just thrilled that you're having me today.
So, miraculous psychotherapy. You may say it's miraculous since you were talking about how long this book has taken you. It's miraculous that we have a book, but we do have a book now.
Finally.
Yeah. Where'd the title come from?
Well, it's a lot of it's based on, and it's in the subtitle of a thing called A Course in Miracles. I know that's something that you're familiar with.
And you and I have
studying.
visited here on
Yes.
Strategies about A Course in Miracles.
Yes. Even one time we were here when I was talking about Gary Renard.
Yeah, you were bringing him to town, yeah.
And I'm so pleased that he's endorsed my book. It's been a wonderful thing.
Congratulations on so many fronts here. I love the title of your introduction. You dive us right in with the question, does it ever seem like the world is insane?
We got some good evidence right now.
All you got to do is turn on the television or radio, right?
Don't have to look too far.
Don't have to look too far. So what is going on? It does seem like this world is, I remember my mother used to say, we're going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I knew it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I think it is an older variation of we live in an insane world.
Yes, and part of what I'm getting at there is, and the Course in Miracles is very similar to Buddhism, and Buddhists like to summarize that life is suffering.
Yeah.
And one of your favorite authors,
Scott Peck, Life is Difficult.
Yeah. And so we do all kinds of gyrations with that, but a lot of times it comes out looking just simply insanity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like it's getting any better.
Well, that's the very nature of it. I get into here a little bit, and once again, Dr. Simcue, someone that you've had on.
Dr. Walter Simcue, I've had him on the radio version of Strategies for Living.
One of the leading researchers in reincarnation and the evidence about that, and he's endorsed the book as well. But with reincarnation, we have some evidence that says we keep coming back to learn about how to transcend this insanity, how to transcend this suffering, and there's just so much evidence of it. And in the work that you and I do as psychotherapists, I think it's something that we need to be sharing with more people, particularly with our professionals, and developing some theories and hypotheses depending on that evidence.
Most people come in to see us, Gary. Most people come in for psychotherapy because something in their lives isn't going okay.
They're not happy.
So they're not happy, yeah. And in fact, in many cases, they've been unhappy for many years before they ever get to your office or my office. So one of the things that I like that you did in the book is you start out very hope-filled,
Yes.
if you will. So right off the bat, you're giving us not one, not two, but three, count them, 3 steps to immediate peace and happiness.
Yes.
Talk about those steps for us.
Well, and you're in the same position where when someone comes into our office and they've been maybe struggling with some of these ideas about happiness and meaning and being comfortable with life, and we go through a process. We have to get to know each other. We have
Sure.
to understand each other. We have to
form a relationship with our clients, yes.
And so I wanted something that I wanted to offer to them right away that they could take out the first day, something that could start helping them even if they didn't quite understand how.
Right.
And so you've studied many things, many authors, many different ideas. And number one is learning how to be grateful. Yeah.
So, again, when we are in dire straits to the point where we're going to come see a therapist or we're going to go to the doctor about it, we are focusing a lot of attention on what's wrong in our lives.
Yes.
We have this thing in our brain called the reticular activating system, and it functions a lot like a viewfinder, doesn't it? What we focus on is what expands.
Yes.
And so immediately, if you practice gratefulness, you immediately shift literally from the inside out. You literally shift the way your brain is working.
Yes.
Maybe subtly at first,
Well,
but there's a shift.
There is a shift, and you and I have talked many times about some of the research in physics and quantum physics and the mind-body connection.
Right.
And we're understanding more and more how it isn't just a matter of affecting how you feel, but it literally starts affecting the things around you, even physical things around you, when you bring a more positive energy into your personal experience. And gratitude is one of the most powerful, easy, simple, direct things I know to kind of get the ball rolling in that
Something
direction.
that we can all do.
Yes.
Step number 2 is, I like the way you say this, because so many people are talking about and preaching, focus on the now, focus on the here and now. You say it a little different. You say, focus on doing the next right thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That, in our business, we like to talk about all control is an illusion. That's something that many of our forefathers in psychology have taught us and talked about. And there's some truth to that. And the only thing that we really have control with, is in this now moment, and we make our decisions based on that, proceeding with goodwill, with good intentions, and with honesty.
The third step's as important as the first 2. Maybe even more important. I don't know.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
Always forgive.
Yes.
Always forgive yourself, forgive others for failures and shortcomings.
There is no making this place work perfectly.
Right.
And we're all going to make mistakes. And
I like the way you talk about that too. Life is an irreconcilable phenomenon.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't like to think about it, but the end result is the same for all of us in this dimension.
None of us are getting out of here alive.
None of us.
Yeah.
And so, we get caught up in the thinking we're going to make all this work. And then we have things like hurricanes come along and say, you think you're in control.
Well, some people would say, we have hurricanes come along, we have elections come along. Did I say that? No, I didn't say that. I'll let everybody just kind of go with whatever you think about that.
Mistakes are maybe the most familiar, common human trait.
Right.
And so learning how to approach even that with good intention, with kindness, with honesty, and how to release that, it's the power of forgiveness.
When we did a radio interview after the book came out, I dug out of the closet an old song. I think it was back from the late 60s or early 70s, Joe South.
Oh, yeah.
And the song was The Games People Play.
Yes.
And I don't know if he read the famous book by Dr. Eric Berne or not, or any of the other transactional analysis books, but we do play games.
Yes.
And you talk about that in the book. You talk about the games the ego plays, and you talk something about the drama triangle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, the drama triangle was first defined and designed by Dr. Stephen Cartman, who won the Eric Berne Award in 1967, was personal friends with Dr. Cartman or Dr. Berne. And in fact, I think it was Dr. Berne that told him when he came up with it, he ought to copyright that.
Yeah.
And so I had to contact him to be able to
be
use
able
it
to
in his
include
book.
it, yeah.
And yeah, he was a wonderful fellow and was very generous with his time and his efforts about helping me with this. And yeah, it comes down to this. The ego part of our mind, that's the part of our mind that wants to play games.
Right.
And that's the part of our mind that wants to delude us from our truth. You know, I talk about, we were created in the image of God.
Right.
And all the perfection that implies, all the love that implies. But there's a part of our mind that doesn't remember that or doesn't want us to focus on that. And to say it simply here, it's the ego.
Right.
And the ego has all of these different games that it plays that I get into in the book. And the drama triangle that Dr. Cartman came up with is
It's really the main game.
Oh, it's
It really is the main game.
useful tool.
Yeah, and it's basically poor, pitiful me.
There's a lot of playing victim out there.
I'm a victim, and if I'm not a victim, then I can be a knight in shining armor. I can be a rescuer.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to dive in right there because
Okay.
the drama triangle is important. The ego is important. I want to define what you mean when you say ego. When we come back, Gary Tiemann has a brand new book out. We're talking about it today with him. It is Miraculous Psychotherapy. You can get it on Amazon.com. You can go to GaryTiemann.com. We'll talk about that in just a second. Miraculous Psychotherapy. Gary Tiemann, our life strategist today. We'll be right back with more.
My relationship with music started when I was about 6 years old.
What happened was I just went to the piano and I started playing For Elise by memory.
They had a career day and a musician came to the class and he did a little demonstration, played saxophone, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's what I want to do the rest of my life.
Wound up being a music educator, and it's been my life for the past, I can't even count how many years. In high school, I wanted to be a professional trumpet player, and it turned out music education was really where I needed to be. And for all these years, that's where all the time and the effort has taken place.
What I get out of music, it's like an expression of the soul, and I hate to sound sappy, but it is. It's like anything that you feel, you can convey it without words.
It takes me to a place where my words don't know how to get me, if that makes any sense. When I don't know how to put my emotions into words, there's almost always a song out there that can do it for me.
Some of the things I get out of teaching personally is actually seeing students get it. One of the subjects that I really love to teach is music theory. And many of our students come to us with a love of music and the hope of studying music and either performing professionally or being music educators. To get to that end, they need to study the music theory aspect of it. What do the notes mean? What's on the page?
Being a community college, you know, people look down on the college because of that, and I think they're wrong. So the quality doesn't suffer at all. I mean, it's unreal. They expect the same thing out of you at a community college as they do at a four-year institution.
And the concepts that you learn and, you know, techniques, and you can't find it at every school.
One of the main things that we try and do here at Bossier Parish Community College with our music students is to instill a good work ethic.
One of the scariest things that I've ever had to do was get up on the stage to do my student recitals like everybody else is required to do as a major, but the instructors help you through it. I mean, they're great. You couldn't ask for a better program here.
When I leave Bossier Parish Community College, I'm gonna go get my bachelor's, and then I'm gonna go get my doctorate and hopefully teach at a college.
One of the aspects of our music program that we're always working on is recruiting quality and talented students.
Welcome back. Welcome back into the television version of Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan, and you're, of course, watching Strategies for Living today because you're watching TV. But you know, we began, Gary, we were talking about 25 years ago on the radio. News Radio 710 Keel, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. We are still there.
Boy.
We are still there. Sunday mornings, 9:05 to 10. You can tune in and listen to us. You can also go to strategiesforliving.com, and there's about, I don't know, 600-700 shows you can listen to there in your spare time on podcast form. So www.strategiesforliving.com. I am so happy to be with my colleague, my friend, Gary Tiemann, who has a brand new book out, his first. I hope it will not be his last. It is called Miraculous Psychotherapy, and we're talking about it today. You can get it. We're only scratching the surface of it today, so you need to get a copy of this book from Amazon.com, or you can go to GaryTiemann.com. It's T-I-E-M-A-N-N, GaryTiemann.com. So we were talking about this drama triangle. So picture a triangle. We'll draw it here, and picture at the bottom of the triangle a victim. So everything kind of revolves around being a victim. And so, in fact, it's called many things. The drama triangle, Karpman's triangle, or the victim's triangle.
Yes.
So oftentimes what you have is a victim, you have a rescuer, you have a perpetrator or a persecutor. And the thing is, this is, you mentioned our ego gets involved in this. When you use the term ego, you're not exactly talking about Freud or Jung's definition of ego, are you?
No, and Jung,
He
got
approached it more. Yeah.
the way that we are. Those that have read Eckhart Tolle, the way he defines ego, the way the Buddhists define ego, that's the definition of ego that we're using here.
So it's a compilation of all of the messages and beliefs and stories that we've compiled about ourselves and about the world. And here's the tricky part. We get a lot of this installed into us.
Oh, yeah.
We're chock full of this by the time we're 5 or 6 years old, aren't we?
We've been through a lot of training.
Yeah, yeah.
Even
And so
at 5.
then unless we're aware of it, and here's the tricky part, unless we stay aware of that, Gary, we can run. That ego runs and runs and runs and runs our lives, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, one of our phrases in our work is we're about trying to make the unconscious conscious.
Yes.
And so much of that training that we've been exposed to, so many of the ideas that we base our life on is embedded in this unconscious place. And so we're trying to get people to be more conscious of what they're doing and why they're doing it. And where does that come from? What's that about?
Yeah.
Karpman's drama triangle was one of the most useful practical tools to start analyzing this with clients that I've used and I know you've used for many years now.
A lot of times this time of year, we begin to celebrate. We say, "Are you ready for some football?" Right?
Yes. And I am.
And we are. And thank goodness for the Tigers back in place. But you would say, Are you ready for a teacher?
As many in our circle, it's attributed mostly to Buddhists, but I don't think they originally came up with it. Yes, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just part of the design,
Yes.
the plan.
And in fact, I want people to begin to look at everyone that shows up in their life, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a parent, whether it be a child, whether it be a colleague, that the people that show up in our life are not coincidences, and every one of them can be a teacher if we will learn to approach it correctly and with clear thinking.
Now, one thing we should mention, and A Course in Miracles is no small undertaking.
Oh, no.
But a lot of what you base is on A Course in Miracles. One of the things that I would invite people to do is to understand that this is an easy introduction,
Yeah.
isn't it?
That's all I can really call this.
You're
Yeah.
easing us in, but I think it's important to understand, well, now, just like Buddhism, which is not a religion, by the way. Most people think it is. It's not a religion. It's a way of life. I think we could say the same thing about A Course in Miracles.
Absolutely.
So you can be a practicing Baptist, Catholic, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, whatever you are.
Yes.
And A Course in Miracles will work for you.
Yes, and it's widely applicable.
Yes, you can make it applicable to any creed that
Yes.
you happen to belong to.
Yeah.
Now, this is, and I want to make sure that people understand, this is 100 pages long or so. So it's not going to tie you down for long, and yet you're going to want to read it. You're going to want to read it slow. There's so much contained in here, like learning to grow from grief to happiness.
And-
That's our jobs here, isn't it?
Well, and part of what I've done in this book is to synthesize some of the standard things in psychology that you and I have known forever
Right.
and have been using forever, and synthesize that with what the Course is teaching, the Course in Miracles is
Yes.
teaching. And so Kubler-Ross's grief stages, I think, fit perfectly well with what we come to understand. And I hope applying Kubler-Ross's stages of grief with this perspective, I hope it can help people understand life a little better.
Yeah, I tell folks, and I know you do too, I even hate to call them stages, even though Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about stages, because she talked about denial and bargaining and anger and depression and finally acceptance or resolution. But stage implies, okay, I'm through one and I'm to the next, and they're a little messier than that.
Life is messier than that.
Yeah.
And so we have all these beginnings and endings, and with every ending, there is a grieving process. And so these are overlapping and convoluting, and yeah, we can write it down on paper nice and neat and step by step, but that's not life.
You have a little bit of everything in here too. There's a chapter on what is marriage all about, what is parenting all about. These are important subjects, aren't they?
And the ones that we run into every day in our work.
Every day in our work. Yeah.
And I just wanted to give people a basic framework to start thinking about this stuff that may be a little different than what they've seen in the past.
You know, one of the things that I like to do in inviting people onto the program, Gary, both the TV program here and the radio program, is if you're going to become a life strategist, you've got to stretch us. You've got to make us think. Stimulate. And I got to say, you get 5 stars. You get 5 out of 5 stars.
I think I know where you're going.
Because every chapter, what is there, 12 chapters in the book?
13
chapters in the book. You make us think. You stretch us in every chapter. So thank you for that.
Well, my pleasure.
Folks, we have barely scratched the surface of this today. You're going to have to come back.
Happy to.
And talk some more about miraculous psychotherapy. In the meantime, go get this book, Miraculous Psychotherapy, Achieve Your Ultimate Happiness with A Course in Miracles. Gary Tiemann. You can order it on Amazon.com, or you can go to Gary's website, GaryTiemann.com. Folks, hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Gary. If you did, tell your friends about us. Come back and join us often. And that's the way we grow here on Strategies for Living. And don't forget, strategiesforliving.com, as well as News Radio 710 Keel Sunday mornings from 9:05 to 10. For Gary Tiemann, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. I'll see you next time here on Strategies for Living.